Alright, finna go ahead and get it started. What's good, everybody? Welcome back to the Life of a Champ podcast. For today's episode 216, we're going to be discussing how to create a great interaction with women, or great interactions with women. And a few things I want to say before I go ahead and get it started. If you do not know who I am, my name is Champ, and I help men build their foundation of masculinity. This is going to be episode number 6 of my dating and attraction series. If you have any questions or any thing that you're trying to seek when it comes to searching for relationships or just interactions with women in general, I highly recommend attending to the previous episodes that I have put forth. I'll go ahead and list off the ones that I have. I'll give the general idea that I had kind of mentioned on previous podcasts. So I had talked about the feminine and masculine dynamic, a huge one. And then I talked about the masculine frame. I talked about female nature. I talked about the unflattering truths about dating. I talked about attraction do's and don'ts. And I also talked about the biggest obstacles for men when it comes to dating. So these are going to be a few of the things that I think are very, very essential when it comes to curating the best perspective of dating and attraction when it comes to trying to attract the other, whatever you're trying to attract, realistically speaking. I guess you could say the other gender. That's fine with me, I guess. But essentially, whatever you're trying to attract, I would hopefully help you out in some type of way. But a few things I want to say before I go to get it started. Make sure you go ahead and follow me on Twitch, TikTok, Rumble, and on Spotify at Life of a Champ Podcast on every single platform. Also, if you do not know, I'm going live on YouTube, so you can tap in and interact with the podcast as well. But getting into it, there's a few things I want to mention with this because I think this is a very interesting topic, right? When it comes to creating great interactions with women. And at the very, very start, I want to kind of mention something that I think is a little bit interesting through my own personal observations, and I want to know if you've had this experience or maybe had these observations as well. I feel like when it comes to the start of an interaction with a woman, I feel like most people get off on the wrong foot, right? I would say most people are very, very clueless when it comes to dating and attraction, when it comes to that initial interaction. And they struggle to attract and they struggle to maintain attraction long term, right? They struggle. What I see most often is they struggle with the foundation of the interaction, and they struggle with the foundational knowings of what it takes to build a healthy foundation. And this is where most problems and most relationships and most interactions with women go wrong, is they get off on the wrong foot. And even if things kind of start good, they won't necessarily always last because of what I mentioned earlier, right? They don't necessarily have the right foundation that's going to allow them to go ahead and develop properly. So I want to take the time today to talk about the foundation and what I think the foundation is supposed to look like when it comes to a lot of different things, right? When it comes to the interaction, I feel like there's a few things that you can kind of distinguish whether you guys are compatible or not compatible. And I will talk about these things, and I've mentioned them on previous podcasts before, but there are a few things that I deem, and I've never heard anyone say, are compatibility tests. These are going to be things that you must vet very, very early on within the interaction to see if it's even worth your time or the other person's time. So, for example, one of the examples of these compatibility tests, and you will see if you've interacted with women, you'll be able to see these things, and most of these things, of course, are going to be very much unconscious. But nonetheless, these things test the compatibility to see if you guys are even worth the interaction or not. And usually, if one of these things goes sour, regardless of how long it is, right? I feel like there's the quicker you figure this out, within conversations or just the interaction in general, the quicker you will either be all the way in or all the way out of the interaction. So the compatibility tests, and I've added a little bit more to the list than I've previously mentioned. The first one I want to say is shared childhood experiences. I feel like if you, through my own personal observations, you're going to be able to better bond to somebody who's had a similar interaction or a similar upbringing or a similar childhood experiences as you. And if you do not have similar childhood experiences, it's going to be a little less. You're going to be a little less, I'm going to say, attracted to that person, right? People are attracted to the experiences that they find familiar, right? So with that being said, that is going to be one compatibility test that I think there's not enough people that talk about that as well when it comes to the foundation of an interaction. If you guys have a closely related childhood when it comes to maybe you watch same shows, or maybe you listen to same music, or maybe you were around the same type of people, right? Or a similar type of people, then maybe it'd be a little bit easier to go ahead and bond, and you have that within the interaction, making it more familiar, making it have a stronger foundation. Okay. Next one is going to be music. This is going to be another compatibility test, right? When it comes to the long-term interaction, or when it comes to just even having an enjoyable interaction, maybe it's 2 or 3 times, right? If you guys don't have a similar music taste, some people don't necessarily see it as such a big thing, but quite frankly, for me personally, if we don't have the same music taste, then we really don't have anything to talk about. I'm just kidding, but that's kind of the way that I see it, and I think that's big to me, and I know that's big to a lot of people as well. So if, for example, if you listen to rap and she likes country music and only country music, that's one less thing that you're going to be able to bond to. And I'm not saying it can't work. I'm not saying, yeah, I'm not saying it can't work, but I'm saying the foundation couldn't. If you guys bonded, if you guys could bond over these things that I will mention, and music being one of them, the foundation is going to be a lot more solid. The compatibility is going to be a lot more felt. I'll say that. Getting into the next one, this is going to be a huge one. This is going to be the overall premise of intimacy, right? This is an interesting thing that I will mention because I've heard, and of course you've heard this, oh, I'm going to wait till marriage and things like that. And I don't necessarily think I think that's good in theory, but I don't know how good that is in practicality. I think that's probably the most ideal thing, but I think it'd be missing this one thing, right? The compatibility test of intimacy. When I'm talking about intimacy, I'm talking about kissing, I'm talking about sex, I'm talking about all those things that involve intimacy, because maybe here's the thing. Maybe you really like that person as a person, but when it comes to this very important aspect of a relationship, especially early on, if you guys are not compatible, if she's doing something that you don't like, or if you're doing something that she doesn't like, just know that interaction is not going to go as well as it could go. So I would say that is another thing that I would add to the compatibility tests to see if you guys are compatible or not, right? And so, with these things being said, I'm not saying you should just rush into sex right away. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying it is going to be within your best interest to see if you really like what this person has to offer. And I hate to say it that way because it's not as an interaction is not as transactional as that, but it is indeed kind of like that. So, with that being said, kissing, intimacy, sex, all of that is going to be another compatibility test that I would say can be for some a make or break. If it goes great, it can be a make. If it goes really bad, it can be a break. So that's going to be another one. Another one I would like to mention is going to be problem resolution, right? I do believe that before you get into a relationship or even begin to talk to a person on any type of serious level, I think it is of absolute importance and of paramount importance when it comes to see if you guys are able to overcome a problem. So let's just say you have a problem. Maybe it's a little problem, or maybe it's a big problem. Maybe it's something that you very much disagree on, right? How are you guys able to execute to to a resolution, or is there even a resolution to the problem, and or is there even an attempt or an effort to be made to a resolution of a problem, right? I feel like figuring that out is going to be another test of compatibility, right? This says everything when it comes to maturity. This says everything when it comes to the foundation, especially establishing a strong foundation that I've mentioned earlier, right? When it comes to creating these great interactions with women. If let's just say, for example, you want a person that's going to be calm, who's going to be want to who's going to want to have the paradigm of it's us versus the problem, right? Who has all these things in mind that are very, very good and very, very healthy minded ways of overcoming a problem, right? But the other person is just trying to blame you and not trying to take accountability for anything, right? And it's just straight blaming you for every single thing, and maybe even gaslighting you, maybe even doing all those other buzz terms, right? That might not be the best when it comes to the compatibility. And I feel like the quicker that you're able to figure that out, I'm not saying just fucking cause a problem. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying just go ahead and cause a problem and see what happens. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if you do encounter a problem, how you go about it is going to say a lot about your character, and how the person goes about it is going to say a lot about their character. And how you both go about it together is going to say a lot about the interaction itself, right? and the potential of the foundation of that interaction, right? So one thing I want to mention with this, and I haven't yet laid out all the compatibility tests of this episode, but I want to mention this very, very clearly. When it comes to the foundation of the interaction, what you fail to realize is some of these things that I've already yet mentioned are things that people, when it comes to see if they're compatible or not with these people, some of these things can be dragged on a lot longer. Maybe for me, most of these things I would say within the first 2 or 3 weeks with any person, with any woman that I've ever dealt with in my own personal life. I was able to thoroughly vet for all of these things to see if it's going to be a compatible match or not, right? And of course, there's going to be things that, come up and whatever, right? That I might end an interaction. But at the end of the day, there's people who can drag these things on a lot longer, right? So for example, the one that I just had mentioned, right? The problem resolution, right? If you don't have a problem, I'm not saying create a problem. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying if you don't have a problem with somebody, and maybe you do get along with them very, very well, maybe you guys have a great time together, but you come across a problem and you guys don't handle it correctly, the foundation is cracked at that point. No matter how it goes, no matter how it's gone, it's cooked pretty much. If it doesn't have that foundation, right? That foundational understanding, right? This is all the things that I'm talking about, right? The foundational understanding of what it takes to have a good interaction, a worthwhile interaction. So I'm gonna get into more of these, right? The next thing is obvious. These are all things that are going to be somewhat obvious, but I feel like for you to have that clearly stated, it can definitely help you out, and it has definitely helped me out when I finally actually realized these things. The next compatibility test that I think is very, very important. This is going to be discussing ideas and discussing world beliefs. This is going to be one of the most absolutely paramount things to compatibility. And you'll be able to tell a lot about a person's character and the things in which they believe and the things that they stand for if you're able to have these types of discussions and you're not just trying to go ahead and get sex out of this interaction, right? It obviously depends on what you want at the end of the day, right? If you want to build a foundation just for sex, this is probably going to be a little less important. But if you're going to try to build a relationship or an interaction that's going to last longer than a few nights, just know that this is going to be one that is this is going to be one of the most important ones, right? This is literally going to say everything about one's character, the things in which they believe, the things in which they value, the things in which they are wanting to go ahead and pursue, and the way in which they see the world. More importantly, right? If you guys don't see the world the same, not saying you need to see it exactly the same, but if you don't even see it remotely the same, the interaction's cooked. So I'll give you one example, right? One example that I've seen. This is going to be a pretty obvious one, right? If you're a masculine man, you'll have this interaction within dating if you haven't already had it. So I've had interactions with women where obviously me being the masculine man, I'm going to be the leader. I don't necessarily need to explicitly say that, but I've also had women who, if I even mentioned, not that I personally recommend, not that it doesn't need to be mentioned, but if you did mention it, if she would have a problem with you calling yourself the leader or you being the leader or you leading in any type of way, that is a huge problem to the interaction, right? That is a crack in the foundation. That is a detrimental crack in the foundation. That's going to pretty much result in a lot of different things, right? And there's a lot that can be extrapolated from that one idea, right? And that's something that I want to mention very, very thoroughly is some of these ideas, maybe you don't even have to get so deep on them. You're able to extrapolate a lot out of certain ideas if you're able to ask the right questions, right? So asking the right questions is going to be very, very key within any of these things when it comes to compatibility tests. But I think more importantly, with the ideas and world beliefs, if you're able to ask certain things, you're going to be able to see that true person's character on what they believe in, like I said, what they value, and see if it aligns with you. And if it doesn't, then quite frankly, the interaction is not truly worth having at all. So the next one, and this is going to be the last one that I have, and if there's any other compatibility tests that you see that are essential and are paramount to the foundation of an interaction in terms of creating a great interaction with a woman, feel free to leave it in the comments. But for now, this is the last one that I have. Last one that I have is future pursuits. This is going to be another one that I think is very, very key. So for example, right, what I mean by future pursuits, a conversation that I've had with a lot of women that I've dated that I think is very, very important to me, and I think that's very, very important to most men, is a question that I ask, and like I said, within the first at least the first month, probably the first like 2 or 3 weeks for damn sure. I would ask them. It's a similar question to where do you see yourself in 5 years? It's a question. It's how would I like to describe this? It is the question of do you want to have children? That is a question that I ask women when it comes to um, some of the first interactions that I've had with women, because I think that's very, very important. It's something important to me. It's something that I believe that is important to a good, healthy-minded woman. And if for whatever reason they don't want to have children, you need to have the greatest explanation as to why not, as to why. And that is one of the future pursuits that I think is going to be vetted in that specific way. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Do you want to have children? Yes or no? And obviously, if I'm a person that wants to have children and that woman doesn't want to have children, then you cannot have. You basically the interaction's pretty much over with because there's no point of having it. What's the point? You guys don't see each other. You guys don't see the vision of the future in a similar way. So therefore, that is going to be another test of compatibility, which are going to be future pursuits. So obviously, there's plenty of other ones that somebody could mention in the comments, whether you're watching this or rewatching this. But I think those are going to be very, very important when it comes to the foundation of literally any interaction. It doesn't have to be man, woman. It could be man, man, woman, woman. I think it's going to be applicable to all those type of interactions. And at the end of the day, I want to mention this because I think it's key, right? Most people don't do this. They're not very observant of these things. And quite frankly, I think there are a lot of people who are really avoidant of building some of these foundations of an interaction, right? Which are trying to get the answer to the compatibility test, whether it's passing or whether it's failing. A lot of people, they want to say everything and do everything and try to be everything that isn't exactly who they are in order to maintain an interaction. So therefore, what I see is people try to mold themselves to be exactly who that other person thinks that they are, instead of being truly just who that person is. So for example, men will create this. I've seen this, and like I said, I'm not saying this is going to be a thing that happens always, but I'm saying this is something that I just purely have observed. Is I feel like there's some men and even some women who try to purport this ideal onto the other person, right? I'm this specific way. So for women, maybe they'll lie about their body count. Or for men, maybe they'll pretend that they have more status than what they do, or they'll have more money than what they do, right? So these little lies are going to be, and this can even extend beyond that. But what I'm saying is, people are really avoidant to those type of those type of conversations that are going to be the truthful conversations. And another thing that I want to mention within the test of compatibility, and I didn't yet mention it, it kind of goes hand in hand with everything. It's just going to be values, right? You need to be able to ask questions that are going to be able to vividly be a description that they'll give you, that the interaction will be able to give, that will clearly say, this is what I value, this is what I don't value. And if you don't do that, you're going to have a lot more leaks into the interaction, and if it doesn't go great, then quite frankly the interaction's over. But at the end of the day, vetting for somebody's values is definitely going to be very, very key, right? So for example, right, kind of going back to what I mentioned, so I'm kind of going backwards a little bit, but I mentioned with basically the lying aspect, right? In order for the interaction to be the best that it possibly can be, this is another thing that I would say is going to establish a strong foundation and how to have a great interaction with women in general. I would say you need to tell the truth. This is going to be the top of the top, highest values when it comes to creating a strong foundational interaction, right? This is how you create an anomaly of an interaction, is by being as honest as one could be. This is something that I've done, and of course, all these things that I've mentioned, right? I'm obviously a man who's had enough interactions, and I have a relationship that can vouch for all the things in which I'm talking about. I feel like there's a lot of people that do give relationship advice, or they give attraction advice, they give dating advice, and it's very rare that any of those type of people actually have a good, healthy relationship. Usually it's men that are just single, who just want to dick around all day long, and that's fun for a while, but at the end of the day, it's you got to be able to mature past that. And like I said, maybe that'll offend some, but quite frankly, hey man, you that's something that you got to figure out, not me. But at the end of the day, yes, I do believe honesty is going to be one of the strongest foundations when it comes to an interaction. No matter what it is, right? No matter if it's an interaction, a friendly interaction, or something that's going to be a little bit more intimate. But at the end of the day, you need to be the one that tells the truth. You need to be the one that is willing to say things that one might not hear, right? And that goes back to what I was saying, right? People want to avoid the truths, right? They want to be everything, they want to say everything, and they want to do everything that isn't exactly who they are. But some people will do it in hopes that they can maintain the interaction a little bit longer. But they do it a very inauthentic way. So when it comes to the interactions, you need to be very, very genuine. You need to be very authentic. You need to be very much a person who tells the truth. And if you're not a person that tells the truth or a person who lies, then quite frankly, I hope every single interaction that you have with women or with men fail. That's what I'll say for damn sure. And I say that in the best sense possible. But at the end of the day, if you want to have the best foundation you possibly can, it must be built on good, strong character and good, strong morals and values. And that is how you have the best interaction that you possibly can, for damn sure, with women. So that is most of what I want to say. I want to know your guys' opinion. Is there anything that I'm missing? Is there anything that you believe, or maybe even have questions to, that when it comes to having a great interaction, that you think maybe that might need to be considered a little bit more than what I mentioned? And I want you to let me know, for damn sure. At the end of the day, in order to create a strong interaction, a strong foundation, right? You're going to need to be able to lay out whether you're compatible or not compatible, right? Um, and with that being said, you don't want to waste your time. You don't want your time wasted. You don't want to waste anybody else's time, and you shouldn't want to waste anybody else's time. The only way to do that is by seeking to go ahead and create a strong foundational relationship with any person that you go ahead and interact with, especially in the intimate level. Um, so if you're willing to, if you're wanting to go ahead and do that, like I said, be truthful, be honest, be a person of integrity, of course, and you go through these compatibility tests as soon as you possibly can. This is gonna say literally everything about the interaction, and if there's a missing link, you'll be able to see it very, very soon. And I can almost attribute to all these compatibility tests. I can almost attribute all of these to all the failures that I've ever had within dating. Thinking of it right now, I would say most of them would lead into ideas and world beliefs. That's pretty much going to be the foundational issue that I've ran across. That for whatever reason, if the interaction didn't work, it's usually going to be right there for the most part. And at the end of the day, you're going to have people that are going to be compatible with you in all of these realms, who are going to enjoy everything about you, right? But the only way you'll find those is if you quickly get rid of those who you're not compatible with at all. So I think that's very, very key. I kind of want to add a second part to this podcast, but I want to know your opinions. Feel free to leave it in the comments. But yeah, give me 1 second. At the end of the day, I think it is very, very key, and I don't think enough people talk about how to create a true anomaly within an interaction, especially within dating nowadays, where a dating partner is a dime a dozen, right? And a good quality interaction is truly, truly rarer than diamonds, and I cannot downplay that at all. When it comes to the state of dating, through my own observations, through my own personal experiences, and through the experiences of other people around me, and through other people that I've heard from, it is very, very scarce to find a good quality interaction. And I don't believe part of it is going to be the quality of people that are out there, but part of it's also going to be the execution, or rather the lack of execution, that is being taken, that is taking place in the dating market right now. And that is why I made today's episode, right? Creating a good foundation. How do you have a great interaction with women, right? That's going to be establishing a great foundation, right? If you can establish a great foundation, literally anything and everything outside of that is going to be much better, is going to be much more enjoyable, is going to be something that potentially couldn't last. And at the very least, or something that can end, which can eventually lead to something that might last. So I think it is very, very key to take into account all of these things that I've mentioned. And these are things that have changed and have truly shaped my own interactions that I have with people, that I've had with women time and time again. And like I had mentioned, right? Maybe we did great on a few of these things. Me and a previous woman that I've interacted with, right? Maybe we did good or maybe even great on a few of these things, whether that's shared childhood experiences, music, intimacy, problem resolution, ideas and world beliefs, and future pursuits. Maybe we did good on a few of these things, but if there's truly one that didn't make any sense, then quite frankly, at least I figured it out quick, and hopefully I didn't hurt them. As like I said, it hurt's gonna be. That's the name of the game when it comes to interactions. At the end of the day, that's dating in itself. But hey, that's the price you gotta pay, man. That's the price you gotta pay. Give me a second. Let me read some of these comments. Good quote for the chat, but it is: if you want to build an orchestra, you have to turn your back against the crowd. This means keep going and don't stop what you're doing. You can adjust, but don't give up. Talking to women because it's important, even though. Alright. Yes, exactly. Katie's exactly right with that comment for damn sure, man. That's what you got to do. No other choice, man. This is true. This is all true, man. This is all true. But yeah, I think part of it, how to have the best interaction that you possibly can have with women, is creating a foundation, right? And of course, there's going to be a lot more. There's going to be a lot more elements that I haven't yet mentioned or that I didn't mention on today's episode. But I think it's going to involve the foundation, right? Part of it is going to be the man or being the person that is going to be capable of having an interaction that's even good at all, right? This is going to go down to the basic things of attraction, which I've mentioned on previous episodes, right? Maybe this will be hygiene, maybe this will be style, maybe this will be confidence, maybe this will be your ability to speak, maybe this will be your ability to be interesting, maybe this will be your ability to make money, maybe this will be your ability to be a person who's on their purpose. Maybe this will be a lot of these different things, right? But I think it is indeed, if you're a person that is on the path, not necessarily that you need to be a finished product, but at the end of the day, if you're a person that is seeking an interaction with the women, I think that it is going to be very much key that you pay attention to the compatibility test, and more importantly, hopefully, being somebody that somebody would want, instead of just saying, you know what, they're just going to take me for exactly how I am, right? As a man, that's not how that isn't how it's necessarily going to work for you. You're going to need to build something for yourself. Maybe you need to build your body. Maybe you need to build your mind. Maybe you need to build your wallet. Maybe you need to build a foundation. Maybe you need to build an identity. Maybe you need to build some confidence, right? Whatever it takes. But at the end of the day, if you're going to want to have a strong interaction with a woman, if you want to have great interactions with women in general, you're going to need to work on yourself. You're going to need to think about these things. You're going to need to what is the word I'm looking for? You're going to need to have a philosophy when it comes to dating. This had given me the most success in dating that I possibly could have ever experienced when it comes to having interactions go my way somewhat, right? Is by having some type of philosophy. I feel like women don't necessarily need a philosophy when it comes to dating. But for men, that's the name completely. That's the name of the game. That is the name of the game. As a man, you must have a philosophy when it comes to dating. You must have a foundational understanding of a lot of different things. And this is the Dating and Attraction series, episode 6. This is the Dating and Attraction series. This is essentially some of my philosophy. If you want to get my own personal philosophy, if you want to ask me questions and maybe talk to me one-on-one, I can set something up if you want to go ahead and reach out on any single platform that I have mentioned. But other than that, this is pretty much all I have to say for today's episode. If you have any questions, like I said, feel free to reach out on any platform at Life of a Champ Podcast on every single platform. Tap in on Spotify as well. I'm on there, and I'll be continuing to post. I'll be posting more shorts here soon, as well as more YouTube clips. If there's a podcast that you want me to go ahead and make clips for, feel free to let me know. Also, I'm going to be trying to do more reactions here soon. So if there's a video or creator that you want me to go ahead and react to, I will feel free to go ahead and feel free to leave in the comments, and I will go ahead and attend to that as well. But other than that, this was episode 6 of the Dating and Attraction series, when I talked about how to create great interactions with women by hopefully having a strong enough foundation that's built to last. Other than that, that's all I have to say for today's episode. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate your time and attention. Episode 7 of the Dating and Attraction series will continue on Wednesday of next week, so tap in with that for sure. It'll be November 27th, if I'm not mistaken, and hopefully I'll be doing some more live streams here soon. Other than that, that's all I have to say for today's episode. I'll leave you guys off with the podcast motto. Fellas out here, man, we don't just work around here, man. We outwork. So make sure y'all work with these motherfuckers, because you know that I am, and you know that everyone else around me is. And it's just like that, man. In order to have the best interaction you can have with women, you gotta be a person that's going to be worthy, and more importantly, you gotta be a person that's capable of building a strong foundation. But that's all I have to say for today's episode. Tap with the next podcast on Thursday, and y'all have a good night.